Hello, class. Welcome to Drafting 2020. This is our 3D modeling class, and you'll be using SolidWorks. Some of the documents, the PDFs, and the images that I've provided in Blackboard were created using Inventor. So they're going to look a little bit different, but it's not going to impact anything that you're working on. This class is a little bit different than my other drafting classes in that we use a textbook that's a step-by-step instruction type book for this class, because there's lots of most of the people who take this class are not drafting students. It's an elective course for their major, and so I feel that this step-by-step with the book is the easiest or the best way to go about handling with this class. Okay, so having said that, it's important that you actually read the book and follow step-by-step what they're stating there. Even if you have worked with a 3D modeling software in the past, I recommend you follow it step-by-step and read through it, because with each different software, the menus are different. The way the commands work are different. So it'll save you a lot of frustration if you take it step by step instead of trying to jump ahead. Now, as you get further into the book, a lot of the chapter exercises will give you an image at the beginning of what the object should look like. Don't necessarily draw your object based on that image. Follow the steps in the tutorial, because at the end of the tutorial, there might be a change to the drawing, just to show you how things can change. Okay, so don't just look at the first page and then do it. Follow the steps. Okay, for those of you who have never worked with a 3D modeling software before, this is a little intro to kind of explain those things to you. And I'm making this video using Autodesk Inventor, mainly because it's the program that I'm the most comfortable with. When I go to do the work in SolidWorks, I have to get the book out and follow it step by step, because I've not used SolidWorks that much, and I've used Inventor for 20 plus years. So I'm gonna demonstrate using that. So you will be working in a 3D environment, and you can see here on my screen I've got 3 planes turned on, and these are our X, Y, Z axes and the planes that those create. The way the 3D modeling software works is you pick a plane and you create a sketch on that plane that's in 2D, and you apply what's known as constraints and dimensions to that, and then you will extrude or cut or revolve. You've got some different options, and that's what will create the 3D shape. So when you start your drawing in SolidWorks, there's a few things you need to pay particular attention to. Number one, make sure you start with the correct template, and make sure your drawing settings are correct, because the book will tell you when you need to make these changes. Okay, so, and what I'm talking about with the settings, it's like what standard are you using? Is it going to be ANSI, which is inches, or is it going to be ISO, which is metric? You want to make sure you get that correct, or else you'll be drawing something that's 25 times too big or too small. So you want to make sure you get those things correct. Okay, you also want to draw on the correct surface plane. So if you can look at this, and Inventor has this little view cube, which if you were looking at your object, the front of your object would be on the XY plane. Okay, so the right side of the object would be on the YZ plane, and then the top is going to be on the XZ plane. So you want to make sure that you're working with the correct surface plane, okay? I'm looking at the book. Okay, so I think this in chapter 2 is where we're starting here. I'm going to give you just a real quick rundown on it. It looks like it says to start on the front plane. Yeah, I think that's right. So what you're going to do is you're going to create a sketch based on a plane. And when you're sketching in these softwares, you don't have to draw your sketch exactly to the correct size. Okay, if you worked in AutoCAD, we work in a 2D environment and you have to draw it exactly the right size. Okay, or you either trim it or you lengthen it, but you have to make it the right size. With a 3D software, you don't have to. And so what you're going to do is you're going to draw lines, okay, and as you're drawing lines, there'll be constraints that apply automatically to it for like vertical or horizontal, or if something, is equal to the opposite side, those constraints will come in automatically. And there's a page in the book that shows you the icons for those constraints as they're coming up. So if you're drawing lines that in the textbook should be vertical or horizontal, you want to draw those vertical or horizontal. If the line is at an angle, you want to get it just close to what the angle looks like. It doesn't have to be exact because you'll apply a dimension to it. And so I've started my line command, and I'm going to draw out, and you can see in my software here, I could type in how long it is. But you notice there's an icon on below the cursor. That's a horizontal constraint icon. Okay, SolidWorks will give you something very similar to this. Okay, so I just draw it out a rough length, and then if I'm going vertical, you can see it tells me the angle I'm drawing, and it gives a little icon over there that's going to say that's a perpendicular constraint to what I had drawn previously. Okay, so if I'm at an angle, you can see there's no constraint icon popping up there, whereas if I come back down to horizontal or perpendicular in this case, it tells me that. And now this one, when I come back over and I get directly over my initial point, you can see a little dash line that pops up. It's a little difficult to see. And that tells me that I'm directly over my first point. And then I close out. Okay, so I've drawn my shape. All right, I'm going to XY plane. I'm going to turn this off, excuse me, because it makes it a little difficult to see. Okay, now we've got our shape. Now we'll apply dimensions to our shape. And SolidWorks will be something similar to this, okay? I'm looking in the textbook here. So that one should be 2 inches, okay? And then you go around placing dimensions. In this software, I can click on the line to apply a dimension to it, and that I did that. I can't remember. And sometimes you have to pick on the endpoint, the 2 endpoints that you want. Okay, and so like if I want to dimension the length of this line, I could click the line, drag it out, and place a dimension, or I could click this line and then go to this line and come up and put that dimension in. Okay, so now that's kind of how you're going to do these things. And then you're going to save that sketch. You finish the sketch, and then you do an extrusion. And when you do the extrusion, you can either come forward, or you can go backwards, or you can make it symmetrical so it goes the same distance both ways, or it can be asymmetrical, in which it goes one distance, one direction, one distance, the opposite direction. Okay, so that kind of gives you an idea of what we're working with. And if I were to, I'm going to go ahead and extrude this. Let me see what. Okay, so the textbook says 2.5. So there's what your first extrusion is going to look like for the most part. Okay, the commands are different. Granted, I'm working in different software, so don't follow my video here when you're going to create your drawing. Follow the textbook. This was just give you an idea of when you're sketching. It doesn't have to be the exact correct size. Just try to get your angles correct, vertical, horizontal, and that will make things a lot easier. If you don't get it vertically or horizontally, you can apply a vertical, horizontal, or perpendicular constraint to that line, and then it will make it that way. Okay, it's important in this class that if you have questions, that you email me, as soon as you can. You can certainly come into the lab to work, and myself or a lab tutor could help you, and we can do a WebEx call so that you can show me what your problem is, and I can show you the solution to that also. So it's going to be totally up to you. If you got problems or issues or you don't understand something, you have got to reach out to me to get answers to your questions. Okay? Good luck with it.